there, welcome to our channel. I'm Vic.
I'm Nick.
And we're Envy Board Gaming. And today we're looking at Trismegistus. This is a 1 to 4 player game. It is designed by Daniele Tascini and Federico Pierlorenzi. It is published by Board and Dice, and Nick is going to give a brief overview of how you play, and then we'll give our reviews.
Hey everyone, welcome to the table. We're set up for a 2-player game here of Trismegistus. Taking a look at the board there and our player board. To start the game, we have some drafting to do. We have some drafting of a tile to do, drafting of these to do at the end, our master experiments, our starting experiments. So we have some drafting to do. We're going to take one of each, get the game started, get the game rolling, and then we'll explain what these do and how to play the game. So we also start with some starting resources here as well on our board. There we go. We have refined, we have unrefined chemicals, and those are set here. So these are more amped up if they're the square. If they're in the circle, they're not processed or refined yet. But we can move along this path to do that. Okay, so during this game, first off, I have already rolled these dice. We cannot have any more than 5 dice on any of these symbols. So right now you can see none of them have more than 5. And the number does matter of how many dice here. We have colors, we have symbols, all kinds of goodies that we can use these dice for. Multi-purpose, but sometimes the colors matter and sometimes the values on them matter. So we'll go over that. We have these different projects we can do here. There you go, all these experiments out here in these different categories, and everything is nicely lined up with what you can do in that area. And also on the board, you can see what symbols matter to these symbols. So we also have a cheat sheet that will give you some hints at what you can do as well. We pull one of those over here. So on these symbols, it says what you can do. However, I'll note that there is a mistake here on one of these two. Actually, these two are reversed. You can see on the board that they are reversed. So you would go by the board, not by this cheat sheet in that case, where it shows this symbol and it shows it as a triangle. However, this symbol is a triangle here. So these two are just reversed. So it's telling you what you can do. So you could use one of these symbols to get one of those symbols. So you can see this symbol in this actually in a circle. Remember, there's circles and there's squares on your board. So right there, I could do an action to take that symbol right there, take one of those, to simply put a cube down on that spot correlated with it. Okay, that could be one of my actions. Now, when I take that die, what I need to know is that die, how many ever dice are on there in that area, is how many actions I have with that die. So if I were to take that, let's say I take the black one, I'm going to put it in the 2 slot because there were 2 dice before I took that one. So that gives me a spot of 2. Now that is not optimal. You can see because there's other ones that give you 5. So I'd much prefer to take one of these 5 if I can. Because then, if I wanted this white one, it would go all the way to the max, which is 5. Now you could manipulate that if you wanted to, if you had resource to do so. These right here help you manipulate dice. As long as you use them right when you take the die, you can add a +1 value to your actions. But you could not do that later if you decided to do it in the middle, like when you've already used some actions. You have to do it right when you take that die. Okay, so we said one possibility is to just take the element that correlates with this symbol. So you can see all these are represented on the board. We also have gold, which is a wild, and so on. All right, so let's say I took, you know what? Let's say I took this right here, okay? I'm putting it at the 5. If I do not want to take that symbol, which I've already explained, I could use it for the color and transmutate one of these on the white path. So it has to have a white path. You can see it right here because I took a white die. If I took a black die, I can do this path. If I took a red one, I can do this path, but I have to have something on there. I don't yet. You start the game with these. I don't know all the symbols. I know like iron and I know silver and gold, but I don't know all these symbols, what they all mean. So, but this is a game about alchemy. So if you want to get into the theme, then you can look up each of these symbols and figure out which one's iron and so on. So if you're using the die, what you would do is you spend an essence. That's what you have to do. You use an action. Say you can do it as many times as you want, as long as it's the white path. So I could say I'm going to spend 2 actions and I would move this over to transmutate on the white path. So I could do this and this, for instance, because those were both white paths. Or I could do it another spot over. That could have been 2. From here, 1, 2. However, to do that, I need to have essence to spend. So there's different types of essence up here. Those are 3 of the main types of essence that you can see right there. You can spend those. You start the game with 1 each. Also, there's an odd one right here. So this one is also an essence. It's the only thing on your board. It's a little odd, but there is one on the board you can spend. You just lose that resource, and that is the essence. When you do that, you're going to come over here, and you're going to move up on the track correlated with that symbol. So you can see all 4 of those symbols represented. You're going to move up that track. Now, there's reasons you're going to do that because of experiments. But let's just keep going over actions. So that is an option. So far, we're done with the first 2. Either take the element, take the essence, these 2. So you could take an artifact, for instance. That will cost 3 regardless. And the colors are represented here of the dice. If you take a white one, it has to be here. You have to spend 3 white values. So I could, on my next turn, since I spent 2, I can spend all the way to 0. And then it would go up here. And take the white, one of the white ones right here. Okay, I can slot one of these. When you do that, you do the action on here immediately. So I would move up on the fire track right here, move up. I would get one of those chits that I talked about, and I would get 1 victory point. And I would get this symbol at the end of the game, which we'll go over soon. And that is not flipped over because I did not activate this. Now, to activate this during the game, that's that transmutate. So if I used a black die and I spent essence right here, this would move up. And since I crossed this path, I would activate this. When I did it that time, it would flip over for the entire round and reactivate or refresh, I should say, after the round is over. So that's what these do. And then when I do spend these dice, you're going to notice we have some reaction tokens right here. My opponent could react to what I do. They can do one action, flip over this charge, and say, I'm going to use that die. Now, it doesn't affect where that die is. For me, it's just saying they're using this action to do one of the main actions one time. So they can transmutate, they can just plain out get one of the cubes down here. So that's what the reactions do. And those also refresh after an entire round. What else can you do? You can take a card. If you don't want an artifact, you don't want to transmutate, you don't want an essence or element, you can take a card in that area. So right there, if I were to take one from there, however I didn't, I took one from there. And if I still had an action left, it would cost 1 action. I could take the card that is there. And those immediately refresh as long as they are from the current round. Which this one is. It is from round 1 because we're in the current round. Now there are bonus actions I can do when I have experiments out. So let's say this is an experiment I was working on. It's my starter one. I have prerequisites. So let's go over the anatomy here. I have to have a 2 on this track right here in the mountain area. So this element. I'm going to want to start spending that element to move up that track when I transmutate. So I want to want more of these and spend them to move other things over because that helps me move up the track I need as a prerequisite for my starting experiment. So I need to do that at least twice to come up with this prerequisite. Then I need to spend these 2 resources here, and you can see that they are squares. So that means that they are refined. They're going to be up top. I'll have to spend both of those. This is the bonuses I would get, as well as that at the end of the game. Then I would move this up to the color, so I can put it over here, slot that for later, and I would take one of these and put them on my Philosopher's Stone, which is right here. This is good for endgame points, putting the stones out here, as well as they give you these abilities to transmutate a couple times or take these bonuses. You put it down here, and you would flip it as soon as you spent it. So right away, if I did that, I can take this, and I can transmutate and move things on my board, and then flip it. So it's a one-time use. Then when you fill out rows or columns, you would be able to pick what bonuses you want. So if I put one here, I can take a gold or 3 of any resources of the circle. Okay? And again, those could be points at the end of the game. Now you couldn't do both of these. So if I did another green up here, you couldn't do it for free. It would cost a gold to unlock it. So if the very first time, let's say it was like this, if this is the first time I've done 2 in 1, it will cost me 1 gold. If it's the second time, it'll cost 2, and so on. Worth noting. All right, and as you move up this track here, you could potentially get points. Also, a lot of the other experiments cost a lot more in prerequisites. It doesn't actually cost you; it's just a prerequisite. Like I said, you don't spend those when you reach this. You never have to spend it unless there's an arrow down for some ability. So you're always going to be moving up this track. Now, when you spend, and when we get to these different things, you're going to unlock these tokens. And if you get there and your opponent doesn't get there at all in that round, they will disappear. So you will be the only one that benefits from them. So this would be just moving up on a track of your choice. This would be the chameleon, which offers you essentially a wild. You can make for one action. One of your dice can be any face and any color. You spend that. Already explained that, and yeah. When you get up here, all the way to the top, you're gonna get some victory points at the end of the game. And then if you get all the way to the top at 12, you will have that symbol with you for the end of the game as well. Now, what that's good for is we have some hidden goals. This is private information that will score you points, assuming you have these symbols. Now, these symbols aren't from this track here. They're actually, except for the ones at the very end, which you could add on. They're actually from completed experiments and these tokens here that you have. So you're going to add, you're going to make sure, you're going to want to make sure that you have something that is going to score you right here, something that you're going for to give you points at the end of the game if you have these symbols. And you can get more of these potentially. There's going to be things like if you see that symbol, you're going to be able to draft you're going to be able to draft between 2 cards that you draw from here at the top right of the board and pick which one you want to score at the end of the game. So that's one of those symbols you'll end up seeing, that one right there. At the end of the round, you are going to refresh. So everything from so let's say all these that are still on the board are going to slide over. And then new cards will come out in all these spots. You're going to replenish. And remember, later in the game, or that round, if people take the cards from the previous round, they're gone. We don't replenish those. However, if they take it from the current round, then we do replenish those. Okay, also we're going to roll all the dice again. We're going to refresh our charges here so we can react to other players. And we're going to refresh these here that if they've been used in that last round, they will be able to be used yet again. You're going to get new ones out here too. So these replenish as well. And you can see that it has essentially round 1. So these all go away, and then round 2 ones come out. There will be 3 rounds total. At the end of the game, we're going to count up our victory points from experiments. We are going to count up our victory points from completed publications here. We're going to count up how many on the Philosopher's Stone we have, how many of these. The more, the better, obviously. So if you've done no formulas or just 1, you're not going to get any points for that. But if you've done 2, you'll get 1 point. If you've done 3, you get 4. 4, you get 9, and so on, up to 7 out there. If you did all 7, that's going to give you like 36 points. If you did all 7 of those, which is hard to do. That means you did 7 and you spent a lot of gold. Gold, speaking of gold, gold is worth a point as well. Ethereal tokens are these right here. They are also worth a point if you've kept any. They're a point each. And your mastery tracks. So if you accomplish anything here, that gives you points at the end as well. And that's it. That's it. So you're going to add up all those points after 3 complete rounds and see who wins. Vic and I are going to go back up top and tell you what we think of the game.
All right. Thank you, Nick, for the excellent overview.
I try.
Always does a good job.
One take, always.
Yep. One take, Nick, is what he said immediately when he was done.
So I do a very mediocre job.
We just like to give a brief overview of what the game is about rather than an exhaustive how to play video.
Yeah.
So let's get started with the game flow. How do you find this game flows?
It depends on the players, right?
Right.
It flows. I think it flows decently if you know how to play at 2. Not so decently at 4. I guess we'll get to scaling a little later. I feel like the game flow is hit or miss. What about you?
Yeah, I think there are times when things may take a little longer because you have to think things out, or you're moving tracks after you move something along on your own, an element along on your laboratory board, and then you're going over and adjusting a track, or there can be times that certain actions take longer, but I thought the flow was pretty smooth.
Yeah, it's a little fiddly at times too. There's some rules here and there that make it a little bit like,
And
they could
just
have streamlined it a little bit here, but
right, and the sheer amount of symbols too.
yeah,
Symbol heavy game, so there's a lot of reference where you have to look and say, okay, this symbol, and then there was an inaccuracy, right, as well, but that threw off one of the players,
the cheat sheets is
Sam.
different than the board, and they're reversed. So two things that are different about the symbols.
So
Unfortunately, if you go by the cheat sheet, we probably shouldn't even do that. Just look at the board as
yeah,
far as if you're create essence.
tricky.
Yeah.
Downtime. Well, there is downtime up until you can react. So if your turn isn't going on, it's not simultaneous. So there
Yeah.
is a bit of downtime in the game, but I thought that it could be pretty quick to before you know it, it's your turn.
Toward the beginning, I think it's pretty good. Toward the end,
Because you're trying to eke out as many actions maybe as you
yep.
can out of those dice. And then I also the last time we played though, oddly enough, there were a couple of wasted actions where I was like, why did I even take this dice? I have this dice. I don't even, I don't have any chameleons.
Maybe it
I
was
have
good for one thing you were trying to do, and then it's
yeah.
like, well, I still have all these three other actions. I guess I'll take an artifact, maybe.
Right. Right. So I guess the downtime is there. It's a thing on this game. Mechanics.
All right, so mechanics are interesting. I like the mechanics. It's a game I can't say there's something I really compare this game to. I like collecting those cards. I guess that reminds me of Encyclopedia, those big tarot cards where you're putting in those orders. You're trying to do different of these different colors to unlock things. So I'm gonna. There's nothing here that's like, wow, that doesn't make sense, or that's stupid, or that's a wasted action. Collecting the S, everything there, it all leads to a gratifying feeling. I feel like the mechanics are sound. Everything there, there's nothing really to criticize other
Mm-hmm.
than there's some complexity, but you go in there knowing that.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, the mechanics are interesting that you get to pick a dice, you roll, these dice, the amount of them is going to determine the potency that you'll then get to spend those points. Certain actions cost different amounts of potency. There's a lot of choices and things you can do. You can even react, you can modify dice. Yeah, so I think that it's pretty sound that way, and it does have an interesting take.
Okay, and next one is randomness. This game doesn't seem random. There's dice, sure. There's some actions that will be less powerful at some turns. There might not be as many dice there. But
Yeah,
there's things you can do about that. There's even that one in the middle that you can make whatever you want. So they tried to help you in some ways. Now, if that one's less too, less options, but you do have the chameleons that let you do whatever. You can react to other people if they take a lesser dice and they have something you need. I like that a lot. The reaction is very strong. If that wasn't in here, there's some problems because you can't do quite as much as you should be able to
right.
do in this type of game. Um, so for randomness, I'm going to score it better than average.
Hmm.
So it's not meaning it's not terribly random.
Yeah, I think that the maybe the most random thing you'll find is your objectives, those that you're trying to score. I forget the name of that thematically, what they call it, but the objectives you get to draw two and choose it.
Publications.
Publications probably is what it is. And then you hope that the artifacts come out that have the right symbols because that was a bit tricky to get our heads around at first was what you required to fulfill that objective, and then also if those experiments just don't come out, if your objective is to score experiments with the wave on it, and then you don't really see wave ones. I don't know. It can kind of vary how that happens, but there's definitely a lot of different ways to go in the game. So I think the randomness is mitigated.
Yeah, and that leads us to replayability, which
Yeah.
I think is very strong.
Hmm.
The way that you're able to mitigate all these things, the way you're able to get around and maneuver around, and the way you can't accomplish everything you want to accomplish because there's so much you even forget. Like Vic said, you kind of when you first start playing it, you might even forget about those publications. Like, oh shoot, I need to get this high
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I was so focused on the master, like the master experiment, get into the certain level there of the prerequisites that I lost track of the things I needed to accomplish with all these other things to get these symbols toward the end of the game that are going to score me and it's going to punish me if I don't pay attention to those.
Right.
So it rewards more plays, and the way you're going to get your points is you're gonna feel, and we've played it quite a few times. It's going to feel different every time. There's something you're going to do that's going to be different. You might be heavy on one thing one game and heavy on another thing another game, and you're realizing that you can score points all these different ways, and you can optimize your turns better the more you play.
Yeah, that's how I felt as well with it. I mean, right after the first one, I knew I needed to play it again to fully,
Yes.
not even fully uh, start to scratch the surface of it. So I liked that.
And another
But
thing, sorry, I don't know if
no,
I'm
it's
cutting you
okay.
off. At the top, oh, so those things you can throw in the variant where you have like something you're shooting for at the end. There's so much in the game that even after several plays, we still kind of forgot about things that we added.
Yeah.
They're like achievements essentially. Think about
Yeah.
achievements.
Mhm.
We had them up there the whole game. Didn't pay attention because our brains are so occupied with other things that we want to do and accomplish that if that happens, that happens. But I'm not even paying attention to it, so I might not even know that it happened. Like I thought about it after the game. Like, wait,
Yeah.
we didn't even count that.
Yeah.
I accomplished one of those, but I didn't even realize it because I was so busy with other things.
He already won anyway. So
Yeah.
something.
But Vic usually wins this game. Vic has won most of the
Yeah,
games.
that's another thing.
Yeah, Andrew won the game in his first play, so he did well.
Yeah, and then that's a good sign. And when we were able to play it with new players that had just been taught it, and now that also kind of sometimes affects the way you play
Oh,
because
100%.
you're not going to go hard on people who are just learning, and then you're taking
You
all the
can't. You're making sure they're playing right, and they're asking you questions the whole time, which isn't a knock at all. It's going to happen.
yeah.
And they're saying, "Here, now pay attention to me. Is this right? You know,
Yeah.
I have to pay attention to that action." But my head, if not for that, my head's down. I have to focus
Right.
on what I'm doing, which is already hard enough.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good if you like crunchy.
And then at the end of the other player's turn, you're like, so what did you do? Because do I want to react? Because there's so much in your own world. But so scalability, that leads into that. How did you feel? I know we touched on it at the beginning of the video.
Oh yeah, I don't like that. I don't like it at all.
This game is good at 2. We're
Yeah.
happy with it because just waiting for more. I mean, you have more dice in the middle. That's about the only thing. Some experiments stick around longer.
The only thing I like about it, more cards.
Yeah.
You don't take out all those 3 to 4 player cards. But other than that, 2 players so much better. You know how frustrating it is that you have to ask if people are going to react after every turn for every person,
right?
And then
you don't
if
want
they
to
do, you
just
have to
jump
wait.
ahead, yeah. And then
especially at first if they're learning.
Yeah, and they have to think: am I reacting? What do I think about that?
Yeah, it might be okay if you're playing with everyone who's experienced. Yeah, I'm reacting here. I'm just taking essence. Here, I'm just going to do that.
Right.
But if they're learning, I'm reacting. What can I do? Let me look. Pause. Like, oh, so we're gonna go around the table.
Yeah.
So it's a good 2-player game.
Snappy 2-player because you're just one person to look at. Okay, did he do something I need? No. All right, don't care. Moving on. Yep. Cool. Yeah, we feel the same way. Table size. Well, you have your own little player board. You need room to build cards out at the top. You've got the main board. Space to roll the dice as you roll them in the middle. It's a little bit, it's a bigger game. It does take up some space. I wouldn't call it small. With all the area you need also to hold all the chits for the different essences.
4 players is a bit much. I mean, we even knocked things over because nothing's inlaid.
Oh yeah.
Just putting a card out, it knocked over things. So there's a track, which is terrible in a 4-player game because there's 4 little pieces on a small
little
track.
discs.
If those budge, if you throw a card at it or do anything wrong, a sleeve hits it. I don't know where you were. You don't know where you were. You know about where you were.
Yeah. Even picking up the tiles. There's tiles on the track that I'll give you bonuses for reaching that. And even with 2, trying to move it, I had to be careful.
And you're thinking probably like, oh, I bet, there's a lot of games that do that. However, in a 4-player game, that thing has 16 little things on it. Little
discs.
Tokens. Yeah, little discs on a little part of the board. So it's very cluttered. It's not pleasant to look at. And one bad sleeve movement and it's over. I mean, it's not over, but it's like
you're gonna have a hard time remembering.
The game's not accurate anymore.
Moving it up because there are actions you take to move it forward by transmogrifying.
She always says that weird. She says it different every time.
Modulification or whatever
Transmutation.
You're doing. Transmutations. When you're doing that, you can't track it easily. So it's not a matter of just looking and going, okay, they had 5 Earths. Okay, they're going to be
2 players. You have 8 of those. It's still a lot, but it's manageable.
So that's a thing about the game being on the table. Theme. This is a very heavy theme game. It's about alchemy. It's an alchemist game. They had a lot built into the symbols of the different elements that you're interacting with, and
you're a different person too, different scientist at the time, competing against. You have some slight player abilities when you unlock the Philosopher's Stone, the way those are going to go. because the boards are slightly different, not hugely different. Even the pieces that you put on this philosopher's stone, maybe there's theme there. As far as Newton was really good at this, so you can do this.
Yeah.
Now, does it shine through? Kind of. The art kind of brings it. The symbology kind of brings it. But do I feel like an alchemist? No. Do I feel like I'm playing as Isaac Newton? No. So the art kind of does, but other than that, no.
I like how the cats are all different.
Cats are different.
The cats are all different on the boards.
Yeah,
But no,
yeah,
the
player
theme
boards.
to me, yeah, it doesn't feel. I mean, the
They tried.
transmogrifying though, that really, I feel like I feel like I'm doing it for real.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
I don't.
The closest thing to it I've ever done.
All I know is I'm moving symbols. I need this symbol. I don't care what the hell that symbol is. It looks like a male symbol or a female symbol. It's like, no, that's iron.
Yeah.
And this one, the
Don't
moon
ya
is
know?
silver. The circle is gold. You should know that.
So the components. What do you think?
No, I mean that's about it. The components. So we have the cubes.
Yeah.
You got cardboard chits
Dice.
for essence.
Three
The
different
dice are
colored
fine.
dice.
Yeah, the dice are fine.
Small dice, not
That's
huge.
fine. You don't want big dice. For
Yeah,
this
it would
game.
be awful.
I'm trying to think. I mean, the boards, your player boards are pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I like the player boards. The art is fine. I mean, that's not a component necessarily, but I don't know.
I think it's fair. It's
0.
nothing too crazy. There's a lot of there are a few different pieces to this game. It's not there is a
Mostly cardboard.
Cardboard, yeah. There's a lot of cardboard chits, so there's that. But the card quality felt fine. It's good overall. The price and the value. So I bought this one.
Mm-hmm. So
I got mixed up with another T game, but no, this one is the one that I bought, which I don't usually buy. But you know what? This was on sale, and it's still on sale as
32
of
US.
$32.95 US on Amazon.
Yeah,
which is pretty good. I would say that I would pay that price for the game because I've paid, 60 plus for some real stinkers. So
very good value.
Yeah, for the just the scale of the game you get, that's definitely
32, 33, so worth it.
Yeah. Setup time. A lot of chits, as we mentioned. It can take a little bit of time. If you pre-bag out the different characters, that helps to have that all divvied out with all the essences that they get.
Yeah.
That helps. But
we do that.
Mm-hmm. I think that helps eliminate it, but there's no like game trays or anything like that.
Yeah, it's okay. Game. It's not crazy like set up for the game. It's okay.
Yeah. The game length. The box says that it's 90 to 120. But with the 2-player, it's quite pleasant. I think it has just the right time. But I don't think it could go any longer because it is certainly the part of the challenge of the game is knowing you have 3 rounds, 3 dice, and then interestingly, you can choose to exhaust a whole dice with boom 3 potency action right away, and do things that you end up expediting your round faster than the other person depending on what you do.
Yeah.
And the reactions.
Yeah.
Yeah. And being able to refresh your reactions.
I'm not going to have much to add.
Reactions.
Not much to add to this one. I feel like the time that they put in the box is probably accurate.
Right. Complexity. It's a brain-burning game. This is a game to me that is complex because not only are you thinking about, okay, what am I doing? What's my objective? What am I want? What are my experiments? How do I get on the track the way I want to? The potency of the dice. You obviously don't want to take the lowest potency dice right off the bat because their potency is diminishing as people are grabbing from the dice pool. So you look and you go, oh, there's only one pool that has a 5. I want that one. You just know it. And then you kind of sit there too and you think about when is the best time to react when you only have 2 reactions. As the game progresses, Nick says it does slow down a bit more with the AP setting in because of the fact that oh man, that there's such a low amount of dice, let's say, for each element. There's only 3 or 4s out there. Your actions are not going to be like, boom, I'm going to spend 3 potency on this. Like there's a lot that calculation and even thinking ahead of where you're going to move elements as you transmutate them. Transmutate them down in your laboratory. That's a whole other thing too.
Yeah, I think pretty much got used to it after a game though. So complexity, in some ways, because of what you said, there's a lot of thought they're going to put into the game. Is it something that I don't understand it? No, it's not going to be like that. I don't think it's not complex and like, man, I can't get my head around this game. No, I think you can get your head around it after a play. So complexity. It's not overly heavy. I think it's it's in the fours on Board Game Geek, but it doesn't feel when I'm playing it that it's overly heavy. It's just you have choices. You're dwindling down on your actions. It's time's running out, and you're trying to optimize. Now, is that complexity? Sure, I guess.
Right.
How are you going to go about this? You have to use some thought. It can be brain burnery like that, but it's not because, man, what can I do? What are my options? Am I forgetting things? It's like
Right.
it's
Or
pretty common what you can do. You can
certain
take a shit.
actions are not like finicky, where there's a multi-step. If you do one action, it's going to be like a lot of things involved
Yeah.
in it.
When you think about it, there's 4 things you can do
Yeah.
on your turn. So it's not super complex, just accomplishing different things. So we're gonna jump to our main category of fun. Is it fun?
Is it fun?
You're asking me first.
Is it?
Yeah, I asked for this game. It's fun.
Yeah, it is fun.
It's fun at 2.
Yeah, we like it. It's a good 2-player game.
Yeah. Yeah, not much more to say about that. I think it's a fun game. We said it was our top new to us game for the quarter. We both agreed.
Mhm.
That was before we played it at 4, so that my opinion may have changed a little bit. And I guess we'll get to scores.
Yeah.
So you want me first?
Yeah, here you go.
Okay.
All right.
So my score did drop after the 4-player game.
Oh.
I have to dock it. It's not if it doesn't scale well, it's going to drop a little bit, but not significantly. It was an 8-8 before, and I'll put it at 8-5. I'm going to go 8-5 overall. As a 2-player game, I'm probably about at 8-8. As a 4-player game, I'm probably a little lower. So I'm gonna lower it down. It's come down to earth. We're only gonna play it at 2, maybe 3. We barely ever play at 3.
Yeah.
But if somebody wants to play it, I'm open to it at 3.
Yeah.
8-5 for me.
All right. Well, I was around you. 8.7.
There we go.
8.7. I like it. Good game. Nice price. Nice cat on the box.
There you go.
I like that. I like the guy with the beard, and I don't know, just a cool game. I like kind of the more maybe nerdier, not even so much that the science theme to it is just impressive to me. It's interesting. So
Alrighty, there you have it.
high scores from us for Trismegistus, a game that you will have a lot of fun saying.
Or will you?
Thanks so much for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please click the like, thumbs up, and subscribe for more great reviews. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.